Hi everyone, good evening. So we are with our 10 weeks of Yuktahaar project, and for people who are joining this project new, I would like to say that we are in phase 2 week 5, so you can catch up all the videos of the project. It is in our highlight section on our profile page. The name of the highlight is 10 weeks project, and you can just brush through all the videos and you can take part in this project from week 1, but we are in week 5 currently, and today the topic is lentils, pulses and beans. Whoever has walked the 4 weeks of the project with me know that in phase 2 something that is very important is variety. And when I say variety, I don't mean variety only in millets or only in fruits or only in vegetables. We even spoke about variety in fish, for that matter, during one of the lives, and even we had a guest speaker talking about how we can bring variety in seafood that we eat. But there's also variety in lentils, pulses and beans that is required. And in fact, lentils, beans, pulses and seeds, this whole category of food is something that I would say is the star, if they are the star foods in phase 2. So of course, there are a lot of people who get on this high protein craze, and then they start taking a lot of these sprouts and beans and rajma and chola and all those things, and then they start feeling bloated and they don't feel nice about anything. There's always heaviness in the stomach and all those things, because of course, like with many other foods, we always tend to go wrong in the way we are eating these lentils and pulses. And today exactly I'm going to discuss how we can eat all our lentils, pulses, beans, a variety of them, and still feel light in our belly, not have that characteristic flatulence and the bloating and the gas that is usually associated with all of these variety of pulses and beans. Okay. So firstly, I'll tell you that actually this whole thing is covered in my book. Obviously, people who are with me know that this project is based on the book. So of course, this book is here. And page 211 is the exact page where I have written exactly about this, where I've written about more about pulses, legumes and stuff. Why I'm showing this is that, the 10-20 minutes live that I do, of course, I try to give as much as possible, but it's always better to go back to the book for a detailed explanation of things. Also, a lot of people in the project have benefited in terms of bloating, flatulence, etc. But there are still a few people who have reported in their progress forms that I feel constipated or there's flatulence, and therefore I thought that somewhere or the other, maybe the participants are going wrong in the way that they are eating their lentils, pulses and beans. So let us just get on the topic now. So what is the lentils, pulses and beans? All the dals, जैसे कि उड़द दाल है, चना दाल है, of course तुअर, मसूर, मूंग is there, Vatana is there, which is nothing but those white peas. Then there is so many other, there's something called Navrangi dal. In fact, in the same page, if you follow the page in the book, there's a complete table of all the unknown and very rare dals that I have put out, the Indian dals. And you should try in phase 2 to eat a variety of them. Once you see the table, you will realize कि इतने सारे दालों में मैं तो इतने सालों से शायद ये 3-4-5 दालें ही खाते जा रहा था. So it is nice if you can go back to that table and start including a variety of them. But there's a way of eating it, and that is exactly that I'm going to speak about in this live. So number one is, there are 2 thumb rules when it comes to knowing about your pulses, legumes and beans. So what are beans? Beans are actually like something like lobia or chola or rajma. There's something called matki also that is usually more prevalent in Maharashtra and Gujarat. So all of these things, they come in your pulses, legumes and beans category. So जब भी हम कोई भी ये चीज़ों के बारे में हमें जानना है, there are 2 thumb rules. Number 1 is that always know that your yellow moong dal, that is the easiest and the lightest dal that you can offer to your gut. So we will take that as a benchmark कि वो सबसे lightest है, सबसे easiest to digest है, and we are going to now compare the other dals, the other legumes, beans, whatever you want to call it. We are going to compare it, keeping that as the benchmark. So when I say कि आप pulses या lentils के size को देखो, The bigger the size, the more it is difficult for the body to digest, the harder it is for the body to digest. That is number one. So how will you know bigger the size? Bigger in comparison to moong dal, right? So moong dal is our reference point here, and anything which is bigger, so a rajma is like clearly very big in size than the moong dal, so definitely more difficult for the body to digest, harder for the body to digest. Say a lobia is somewhere in the middle, like it's bigger than the moong dal, of course, but probably not as big as the rajma. So the size is something that you have to see. The number 2 thumb rule is about the cooking time. The higher, the longer the bean takes to cook, the harder it will be for the body to digest. Again, if you take moong dal as your reference, moong dal is something that really gets cooked very, very fast, right? Usko pakne mein zyada time nahi lagta hai. But you take a chola, for example, it takes time to cook, even if you pressure cook it. There are people who even add soda just so that it gets cooked faster, although it's a practice that I don't promote at all. But just to give you a reference, here we are trying to understand pulses based on two things. One is the size, the other is the cooking time. जितना ज़्यादा बड़ा size, उतना वो heavy होगा, उतना harder होगा to digest. जितना ज़्यादा longer cooking time it takes, उतना ज़्यादा it will be difficult or harder for the body to digest. So these two things are there. Now we come to the point where we understand how we can use them, because it's not that कि अगर कुछ lentil या legume बड़ा है size में या फिर it's taking longer to cook doesn't mean that we are going to avoid eating them. As I said, we need variety in phase 2. As I said, I want you to go and check the table in my book where I have put all the names of all of these rare lentils and pulses which we obviously don't eat nowadays. So of course I'm not trying to say कि सिर्फ ये छोटे वाले खाओ या जो जल्दी पक जाते हैं उनको खाओ. That's not the point. But now, because we know that this is how we can differentiate, now we can understand how we can cook them and eat them so that they do good for us. So the number 1 point is about soaking them. Pulses or lentils, beans, जो भी आप उनको बोलो, they should always be soaked. उनको हमेशा soak करना चाहिए पानी में before we eat them. The soaking time is actually dependent on the thumb rules that I discussed with you. तो अगर कोई जो lentil legume है जो बड़े हैं size में, which I said will be harder for the body to digest, or the ones which take a longer cooking time, these are the lentils, legumes and pulses and beans which require a longer soaking time. And I'm sure we know that from our practice कि हम हमेशा राजमा, छोला जैसी चीज़ों को हम रात भर usually we soak them overnight. But if we want to make something as simple as a moong dal, a yellow moong dal, we will not soak them overnight. Just a 15-20 minutes of soaking time is enough, or even a 30 minutes max is enough for them. So always remember कि जितना बड़ा size हो उनका और जितना ज़्यादा उनका cooking time है, उसके हिसाब से you will decide the soaking time. Don't be in a hurry to soak them. Okay, I'll just read out few of the lentils that is there. Like a soya bean is there. A lot of people were asking me about soya bean in phase 1 itself, and that is when I told you that, hang on and we will have soya bean in phase 2. So there's soya bean in this category. Of course, there's urad, then there is something like called a red chori, which is a red bean. Then there is, chaudhari, which is a winged bean. So all of these very, variety of beans and stuff that we have. Always see, as I said, check their size, check how long they take to cook. If they take longer to cook, if they're really big in size, then soak them well. Give time to it. As I always say, invest time in your cooking. So that is the number 1 point. The number 2 point is कि आपने जब soak कर दिया and then you are wanting to cook it, always discard the water in which you soak them. जिस पानी में आपने भिजाया, you should always discard that water. So that is the number 1 point, which is about correct soaking in terms of timing, in terms of discarding the water. The number 2 point is about sprouting. Okay, now all of these lentils, pulses, all of these can be sprouted. Again, the ones which are harder for the body to digest, which you will recognize from the size and the cooking time, those are the ones that really need to be sprouted. You should sprout them, especially if you are a person who is having gastric issues, or a person who is having flatulence, or a person who is not very happy with the way the body is digesting food, then for those people, make it a point that you sprout all of these lentils, beans, the bigger ones, the ones which are bigger in size, the one which take longer to cook, those kind of beans and legumes, unko hamesha sprout karke hi khana chahiye. Okay, so a lot of people, when I do this during my consultations, a lot of my clients feel, how can we sprout a rajma? How can we sprout a chickpea? Because these are the ones which are bigger in size and, they're harder to digest. But yes, you can. A rajma can be sprouted. Even a chickpea can be sprouted. You sprout or not is a matter of choice. But are they sproutable? Yes, they are. As I said, if you are somebody who's, good with your digestion already, maybe you can skip this, the sprouting part. But for people who are really, finding it difficult, that, like other day, I remember I received a progress form of one participant, and she said that, I had chola and I had it with rice, and I just felt like a little stomach ache. So, I'm scared of eating chola. So that kind of a thing. So it's really not about, being scared about chola, because as I said, you need these variety of beans and stuff in your diet, but it's about using these little practices that can make it easier for your body to digest them. So if you are one of those people who have, any of these issues associated because you eat any of these kind of pulses or legumes or beans, then it is important that you sprout them before you eat them. The third and the very, very important point is about cooking. We have reached a point where we always are, wanting to know protein, wanting to know the protein content, protein ko kya hone wala hai, and all of those things. And we forget that jo bhi protein aapko milne wala hai, wo sprouts se, ya legumes se, ya beans se, wo tabhi aapke body ko milega when the body is able to absorb it. If you are not cooking your beans, if you're not cooking your lentils, maybe the raw ones, like people, I'm talking about people who just want to have the sprouts or the, in the raw form, in the form of, say, a salad or a sprout. And I'm sure there are many of them. I remember 6 to 7 or maybe 8 months back, I did a video on how important it is to cook your beans before eating. And there's a whole lot of people who said that, what about the protein? What about the protein? We are going to lose all the protein if we boil it. I mean, come on, cooking has always been there in our society since age old. It's an age old, process, and it has been put into place not to rob us of nutrients, but only because cooking is going to enhance digestibility. Ko wo protein, of course, the raw ones probably, yes, will have better protein value. But if suppose whatever X gram of protein you are, stuffing your body with, is that X gram reaching your cells so that you can use for repair, recovery, building up the body? No, you will not. You're not going to use up that X grams, because simply the body is not going to digest it well, because it has come in a form that's difficult for the body to use. So even if you have put X grams thinking that, I'm having high protein, I've had it in the raw form and I am not going to lose any protein and I'm not going to cook, but that is not going to be available to your cells. It's simply going to go to your colon and make life miserable for all the microbes that are sitting over there, and it's just going to make you feel heavy, feel bloated, pass a lot of gas, and make people around you also feel miserable. So I really feel that we have to get over this concept where we are constantly looking at food ki ye isme kitna protein hai. We have to use our common sense to think that even if that much protein is there in a bowl of raw sprouts, it is not going to go to your stomach, get digested well, and hence it is not going to go in that exact amount and reach your cells for better absorption and assimilation. So guys, as I've been insisting all the time, it is important you cook your food before you eat. So no raw business over here. This is something that I even asked you in phase 1, and a lot of them have lost weight just by following phase 1. A lot of them have felt easy, light on the stomach, simply because in phase 1 we had a lot of emphasis on eating foods that are cooked, that are steamed, boiled, cooked, whatever you want to call it, but not raw. So the most important thing is that please cook before you eat. And whenever you boil these lentils, like jab bhi aap koi bhi tarah ki dal paka rahe hain, of course you're going to boil it in water, you will always see that most of these dals will have a kind of a froth, like a kind of foam that comes on the top of the water once the water reaches the boiling point. That foam is something that you should use a chammach, a ladle, a scooper, a chammach or spoon or whatever, but you should scoop that foam out while it is getting cooked, because that is something also that can lead to a lot of bloating and flatulence. So again, cooking and cooking it right. The next point is about how to cook it, the tempering. Again, like there are few people I can see in the questions, they are asking, can we steam, can we boil? Of course you can steam, you can boil and do whatever you want with your sprouts or your beans or your lentils, whatever it is. But know that if you are a person who is feeling very, not very comfortable with the whole thing, how the body is digesting these lentils and pulses and stuff, then know that a few spices if you add is just going to enhance the digestibility. What are these spices? Garlic. Garlic is something that, Ayurveda believes कि आप कुछ भी खाओ अगर उसमें garlic or ginger है, it can help the body digest. So it is that kind of a thing. That kind of status is given that, whatever you eat, if you just put garlic, if you just put ginger, it can help you digest the food. So that ये जो garlic और ginger है, and even I've written about hing in my book in the same page जो मैंने mention किया, which is page 215. So a pinch of hing, garlic, ginger, ये जो तड़का हम देते हैं, and preferably I would want you to give this tadka in ghee. So when you do this and then you make your whatever chola, chana, rajma, whatever beans, soya or whatever, vatana or whatever you want to cook, you will see that you're digesting it much better. Your tummy is receiving it much better. You're still feeling that lightness which you always felt in phase 1. Okay, so this was about tempering. Now the another point is about timing. The most important thing in TBBD, as you should remember, it's always about right quality, it's about right quantity, and it's about right timing. So अगर आप कुछ भी खा रहे हैं, but अगर आप गलत time पे खा रहे हैं, then it is going to, give you harmful or bad effects and not make you feel nice. So timing, of course, is important. So again, going to our thumb rule where I said that try to know these beans. The first point I made was trying to know about these beans using their size. जितने ज़्यादा बड़े साइज के हैं उतने ज़्यादा it will be difficult for the body to digest. जितना longer it takes time to cook, उतना it will be harder for the body to digest. So keeping these two thumb rules in mind, know that any of these ones which are big and which take long to cook, any of these ones should be had only and only for lunch. Don't have them for breakfast, don't have them for dinner. If you're having some kind of say a chila, for example, which is basically a lentil pancake, if you're having that kind of a thing, you can make it using Moong Dal. So we have something like a Moong Dal chilla, which North Indians have. So if you're having that, that is fine for breakfast. But if you are using any of these bigger ones, then you should have them for lunch. For people who are really, really unhappy with how the body is digesting these pulses and stuff, I would say that for dinner, only for dinner, stick to only moong, masoor and tuar, because these three lentils, the three lentils which were there in phase 1 also, these three are the lentils which are known to be the easiest to digest. They are known to be very light for your gut. So for dinner time, stick to only these three lentils. All your urad dal, rajma, all the other kind of lentils should be there. As I said, we want variety in our diet, and we are not wanting to shy away from any of our lentils. The more variety you include, the better your immunity will be, the better your gut will be. But all these other varieties should ideally come for lunch, because 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. is the time when your metabolism is at its peak. Your digestion is really, really efficient, and it's really easy for the body to digest something which is little harder, say, compared to a moong dal, but the body is going to take it very well, because the body is really equipped well at this hour, which is 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. And therefore, as I said during our bhatura session also, when I did the live video on sourdough breads and stuff, have your chola bhatura for lunch. Don't have it for breakfast. Of course, don't have it for dinner. So variety is important. Timings are important. The thumb rules, the two thumb rules of knowing about what is harder to digest, because people don't understand when I say that this is harder to digest, so avoid it for dinner. But what is hard to digest? So for that, the two thumb rules are: check the size, check the cooking time. Bigger the size, harder to digest. Longer the cooking time, harder to digest. Soak them, the harder ones, soak them for a longer time. Cook them well. Temper it using hing, garlic, ginger. Temper it using ghee, and sprout it. For people who are really finding difficult to digest these kind of beans, you should soak them. You should sprout them as well. So these are a few of the things that if you do, it's something that is really going to help you in digesting all of these well, not giving you any kind of flatulence, not giving you any kind of gastric, and at the same time it will let you enjoy a variety of these legumes, try to get maximum nutrition, exposing your gut to all of these varieties, which I keep saying is very, very important. Okay, so that is it from my end, and I'm going to take a few questions that are here. So Heponli is asking, do we cook sprouted chole and rajma? Yes, you need to cook. Don't have them raw. Don't have them raw. You need to cook. It is very, very important that you cook all of these meals, all of these lentils and stuff. And as I said, the way of cooking is also something I've explained. Personally, I feel that if you cook chole, which is chickpeas, with ajwain, so apart from the ginger, garlic, the hing, if you put just a few seeds of ajwain also in the tadka, the chole cooks really well. Basically they really take off all the gastric and whatever side effects that we usually feel after eating chole. That is something that you will see that you don't witness anymore. While cooking millets, is ghee must, or any cold pressed oil is fine? Ghee is preferable if there is a problem with ghee, or if you're not getting good quality ghee, or if suppose you're vegan by choice, then you can go for a cold pressed oil as well. That is fine. But a ghee is definitely something which is preferable. Somebody has asked me which L-glutamine is recommended to be consumed in phase 2. So L-glutamine, they come in again various forms. What I want you to have is in the powder form. So I can only tell you about the form. I cannot endorse brands over here, so I'm really sorry about that. I cannot give you a brand name. But if you're asking me like which version, because L-glutamine is available in various forms, then I would say that the powder one is the best, the one which is available in a powder form. Somebody is asking me, can GERD diseases can be cured with diet and without medicine? So GERD is basically acidity. So she's asking, can acidity be cured with diet and without medicine? Of course, that's the whole point of revamping your digestion, taking care of these things that I'm mentioning, taking care of your timings, taking care of quality, taking care of all the practices that Yuktahaar stands for. If you bring about these changes in your lifestyle, then of course in a matter of time you will see that your acidity is quite gone away without the use of any medicines, because medicines is not something that is going to cure acidity. It is just going to work on the symptoms. Acidity feel ho raha hai, reflux feel ho raha hai, medicine lo, that reflux will go away. So it is not curing the disease, it is not curing the illness, it is not curing the cause. It is only curing the symptom. It is just giving you relief from the symptom for the time being, which of course cannot be a permanent solution to this. Then somebody is asking, D. Neha is asking, ma'am, can we have lentil dal at night? Yes, as I said, like at night, of course, you can have lentil dal. For dinner, the best dals that you can have for dinner is moong, masoor and tuwar. If you can stick to these three for at least most days of the week, if not all the 7 days, I will say if you can stick to these 3 dals for dinner, only for say 5 days a week also, you will see that you sleep with such a lighter belly and you wake up feeling so much lighter compared to you having say urad dal or a kali dal like what we make. All of those things are excellent. I'm not saying that don't have them. In fact, they are good. As I'm repeating myself, variety is the key in phase 2. But these are dals, the other ones, these are dals that are, better to be had during lunch, not dinner. Okay, so I think I can just call this session an end, and I'm going to join you guys again tomorrow, of course, 6 p.m., same time, same place. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments, because just one request is this, that, you know, when you leave your questions as a DM, which is an Instagram direct message, it becomes difficult for us to sift through all the DMs, because as you would understand, there are many DMs that I receive, and most of the time, you know, it's very hard for me to, you know, browse through all the DMs and try to find out where are these participants, what are they asking. But when you put in the comments, of course, there's a notification, there's sooner or later, because my team is also there, either one of us is going to see your comment. The chances of it getting misplaced is very rare. That is one thing. The other thing is, your question is your question, but it can be somebody else's question as well. So when we are participating as a project, when we are doing this as a community and we are getting together, I think it makes sense if we can also think about others. And when we put a question, if you put it in comments, when I answer it, it also becomes an answer for somebody else who might be having the same question in his mind, in his or her mind, but has not probably typed it. So that is why I have put this request multiple times in my stories, but unfortunately I still see a lot of DMs with questions from the participants, not putting them in the comments but leaving as DMs. And I'll really request if all your questions can come as comments in any of my posts, because this is how we can just, you know, answer it very well for you and help you, because that is what I'm wanting to do in this project. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining me.